When Tom and I first met you and we made our first trip here, the oil price was in the 50s.
Yeah.
It's getting better, isn't it?
Well, the first time I came here, back, well, it's probably about 6 or 7 years ago, and I think the oil price then was about, well, it could have been under $20 a barrel.
Probably was.
And
6 years ago.
yeah, it wasn't an issue then for a number of reasons. Climate change was nowhere near on as much on the radar screen as it is now.
Yes.
Plus, oil was much lower. So it's just that's just human nature, you know. Unless crises or a perception of impending crisis will force a reaction that's necessary.
The interesting thing on how seriously the world is starting to take climate change is that we just had a change of government.
Yes,
It
congratulations.
is probably one of the first times in history, certainly in the Western countries, where a government in the midst of an economic boom with a huge surplus was displaced predominantly on the basis of environmental factors.
Yeah.
There are other factors, I'm not saying it was only that, but that was a huge factor. The young voter was saying, Mr. Howard, you've been there for 11 years and you have done nothing about climate change. You haven't endorsed the Kyoto Protocol and out you go.
I mean, part of the process that we hope will eventuate is that stakeholders who we may not know about at the moment will be identified and through the process, and we can address any of their issues as well, because we found that it works quite well to publicise the fact that you are aiming to, or you have an intention to do a project, and if you are a person with concerns, please come forward. If we haven't identified you already, it's not that we meant to leave you out. We just simply, it's impossible to know everyone who's going to have some feeling that they'd like to be involved or have a contribution.
Hawaiian Electric convened an ocean group last summer, and I think it was partially, they was trying to sabotage the ocean, trying to encourage people to speak out against ocean projects. They brought in fishermen and surfers and boaters and Coast Guard and everybody else, and after the first meeting came out with a draft proposal that sounded like go away. and the whole community said, this isn't what we intended. It's location, 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 but we got to do something. We have to get off oil now. And therefore the proposal was rewritten, and Kat wrote the preface, and a group of us wrote the core document. And that's what the entire group accepted. So at the Ocean Energy Conference this summer, HECO really downplayed it. They presented it, but they really downplayed the proposal.
They thought by, I think, convening this big group that people would say, oh no, cannot do anything in the ocean. And after the first meeting, people were like, we got to get off fossil fuel. We need to do something. And, we're not going to say, yes, we agree with everything. We want to know what the project is, where it would go. But we know we got to do something. They were stunned.
Interesting.
So when you went on your bicycle trip from Paris to Italy
To Rome.
How many days?
There's 15 days of riding.
And how many miles or kilometers?
1,858 kilometres, which was 124 kilometres per day. Average climbing, elevation rise per day was just under 4,000 feet.
Wow. So how did you train for that?
I didn't.
Well,
No, actually, I run every day, but I didn't do any riding training.
1,200 days, he's never missed one day of running. Snow, hail, rain.
Well, there's no snow in
We've
Australia.
been in the desert, but we've been travelling. Doesn't matter what the climate is, how exhausted he is or jet lagged he is. He arrives, puts on his sneakers, and he runs